Welcome to the AI Law Briefing Podcast. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a specific report, looking at the very latest AI developments that are, well, particularly relevant if you're a lawyer working in the EU and Luxembourg. We're focusing on updates mostly from this past week, say May 30th to June 6, 2025, but also pulling in some key things from just before that. Our mission today: to cut through all the noise and really pull out the key insights from the source material for you. We'll unpack the big updates on large language models, other AI tools, talk about what they actually mean for your practice, and cover the latest legal and regulatory changes happening right now in Luxembourg and the EU. Think of it as your essential briefing to stay informed in this incredibly fast-moving field. Now, the report we're looking at actually starts with some specific framing text and a disclaimer, and we think it's important to tackle that right at the beginning as part of looking at the source itself. It mentions the content was AI-generated or heavily edited by AI, and it has the usual disclaimer, general info only, knowledge as of publication date, not legal advice, verify independently.
Yeah, and starting there is actually quite telling, isn't it? It immediately puts the whole discussion in context. The fact that AI was used to make the source material shows you what these tools can do. And that disclaimer, it's a perfect reminder of the tightrope we're walking, the need to check accuracy, understand those knowledge cutoffs we'll talk about, and the whole regulatory focus on transparency and responsible use. It really highlights why, for you, as legal professionals, this isn't just some tech news bulletin. It's about the tools you might use and the rules you absolutely have to follow.
Exactly. It frames why this matters so much. Okay, let's jump in. The AI landscape, especially for professional tools, is moving at lightning speed. What are the big LLM updates from this recent period that lawyers should really have on their radar, based on our source?
Well, looking at the report, the major players are definitely not slowing down. Anthropic, for instance, back on May 22nd, they released their Claude 4 series, Opus 4, and Sonnet 4. The source highlights their better reasoning and coding skills, positioning them as pretty powerful AI agents. Opus 4 for complex coding, Sonnet 4 for better reasoning, following instructions. They've got different modes too, a fast one, and this extended thinking mode for trickier problems. For legal research or, deep document analysis, that improved reasoning could be a real step up, might handle more complex legal ideas.
And they're more flexible with inputs and outputs now too, right?
Yes, the report mentions multimodal capabilities. They can take text or images as input, handle voice dictation even. And the output isn't just text, it could be diagrams, maybe audio summaries. Imagine analyzing case diagrams or just dictating your research notes. But, and this is crucial, the source really stresses this. You've got to watch the knowledge cutoff date. For Claude Opus 4 and Sonnet 4, it's March 2025. Anything newer just isn't baked in.
That's a massive caveat for legal work, where the latest ruling or statute can change everything. What about Microsoft? Copilot and Copilot Studio seem to have a lot going on, according to the report.
Oh, definitely. Some really significant updates there, especially if you're thinking about building custom AI solutions for your firm. Those May 2025 updates to Copilot Studio are key. One major thing highlighted is multi-agent orchestration. Basically, you can create teams of AI agents. One might pull from M365, another from Azure AI models, maybe one from Fabric for data analysis. And they work together on complex multi-step tasks. They can hand off tasks to each other, share results, operate like a coordinated unit.
So not just one AI tool doing one thing, but potentially a whole team of specialized AI assistants tackling something like, say, a complex due diligence.
Exactly that. The source also mentions a computer use capability. It's currently for eligible U.S. customers, mind you, but it lets these agents automate tasks by actually interacting with desktop software or web apps. Think filling forms, moving data between systems automatically, and really important for enterprise use. Developers can now access something like 11,000 models through Azure AI Foundry, and maybe the biggest point, they can fine-tune these models using the firm's own data.
Right, using your internal knowledge base, your specific documents, to make the AI smarter and more relevant to your actual work.
Precisely. Grounding it in your world. And they've now made it generally available to publish these custom agents you build right into the main Microsoft Copilot chat. So the specialized AI helper you create can sit right inside Teams, Word, Outlook, the tools your team already uses, supports interactive chats, quick replies. The source does mention Copilot Actions, announced June 4th, experimental for consumers now, but maybe hints at more web automation coming. For a law firm, what this all means is the potential to build really sophisticated, domain-specific AI assistants that can automate complex workflows by pulling together lots of different data sources.
Okay, and Google. They also had relevant updates in May for search and AI.
They did. AI mode is rolling out in search in the US, bringing in multimodal features. And looking ahead to summer 2025, they're planning deep search for really complex questions. And Search Live, using Project Astra for real-time camera interaction. Could be interesting down the line for visual evidence analysis maybe, with huge caveats about safeguards, obviously. They're also building agent-like capabilities from Project Mariner into search for tasks like booking things. The Gemini app also got updates, including the VO3 video generation model.
So potentially faster ways to do initial research, new ways to interact with info.
Yeah, but again, always check that knowledge cutoff. Google's Gemini models vary quite a bit. The source notes Gemini 2.5 Pro preview was January 2025, but Gemini 2.0 Flash was August 2024. You really need to know which version you're dealing with.
Got it. What about OpenAI? The source mentions more than just their big public model releases.
Right. The report flags the OpenAI O3 operator update on May 23rd, and their Codex coding agent getting an update with Codex 1 on May 16th. Their Responses API also got a boost on May 21st, added support for built-in tools like image generation, code interpreter, file searching, a background mode too, and importantly, reasoning summaries across GPT-4o and GPT-4.1 models.
Reasoning summaries.
Yeah.
That sounds potentially really useful for understanding how the AI got its answer.
It does, doesn't it? And it's part of that whole push for transparency, trying to tackle the hallucination problem. An interesting corporate note was that May 21st, Sam and Joni introduced IO announcement, a new company merging with OpenAI, focusing on actual AI products. It suggests OpenAI might be looking beyond just the models, maybe towards integrated AI hardware or systems eventually. And recent posts from them in early June about handling data and security also show they're keeping that focus on privacy and responsible use. For lawyers, this could mean more versatile custom tools down the road, maybe AI integrated in new ways, and hopefully a continued focus on security. Knowledge cutoffs again. GPT 4.1 was updated to June 2024, which is quite recent, but GPT 4o is still October 2023. Always check.
And Meta. Their Llama models often pop up as open source options. What's new there according to the source?
Well, on June 4th, Meta talked about updates to their Area Gen 2 research device, which hinted at progress in on-device computing. That's interesting because processing locally could offer better privacy than sending everything to the cloud. Their Llama 3.2 model, out last September, is noted as an autoregressive model with specific safety tuning and a vision version for images. And they announced Llama protection tools back on April 29th, things like Llama Guard 4, Llama Firewall, to help developers build safer applications. So open source models like Llama, especially with these improving safety tools, offer another route for building custom legal AI. Potentially more control, but also more responsibility for you to manage data and compliance. Knowledge cutoff for Llama 3.1, 3.2 was December 2023.
Okay, and lastly, AWS, a huge player in cloud platforms.
Right. AWS announced May 22nd that Anthropic's Claude Opus 4 is now available on Amazon Bedrock, their service for deploying these big models. Sonnet 4 is expected soon. A really significant update on Bedrock, though, is to their guardrails feature. They now have contextual grounding checks. This means the AI's output gets validated against specific source info you give it, specifically to catch hallucinations. And in preview, they have automated reasoning checks. These use logical verification to try and catch factual errors, not just check sources. AWS claims this might be a first for generative AI safeguards.
So Bedrock isn't just a place to run models, its guardrails add these extra safety layers, which sounds crucial for accuracy in law.
Exactly. It makes Bedrock a pretty robust platform option if you're developing legal AI apps, giving you more levers to control accuracy and manage risk, which, as we know, is absolutely vital in the legal field.
That's a lot of updates across the board. The clear trend, as the source seems to highlight, is that while the general models get more powerful, the real action is shifting towards building custom, specialized AI agents for specific tasks, using platforms like Copilot Studio and AWS Bedrock.
That really is the key takeaway from all these provider updates, the move towards enterprise-ready, customizable AI.
Which leads us neatly to the big worry, the Achilles heel, especially for legal work: hallucination, plausible but wrong outputs. How are these big players tackling this, according to the report?
Yeah, this is probably the critical challenge they're all wrestling with, precisely because of fields like law, where getting the facts right is everything. OpenAI, for instance, publishes test results on hallucination benchmarks via their Safety Evaluations Hub. They talk about a broader strategy: training models to know right from wrong, filtering content, having experts test, red teaming, and using feedback. Those reasoning summaries in the API can also help you trace the logic.
Trying to make it less of a mysterious black box.
Exactly. Anthropic uses what they call constitutional AI. Models are trained to critique and revise their own outputs based on a set of principles, aiming for safer, more reliable answers. For Opus 4, they've activated AI Safety Level 3 standards with real-time AI guards. They also claim their Claude 3 models showed better accuracy and fewer refusals, and importantly, they plan to add citations.
Citations?
Yeah.
That would be a huge deal for using these tools in actual legal analysis.
Wouldn't it just? A potential game changer. Google talks about their responsible AI practices covering governance, risk mapping, evaluation, management. And they offer features like double-check response in Gemini and about this image to give users tools to verify the information themselves.
Putting some of the verification power back in the user's hands.
Right. Microsoft, within Azure AI Content Safety, has groundedness detection to check outputs against source data. And within Copilot Studio, as we discussed, a core strategy is letting you fine-tune models on your own verified enterprise data. That anchors the AI's responses in reliable, specific information you trust.
Using your firm's own knowledge base as the touchstone.
Exactly. And AWS Bedrock guardrails are purpose-built for this, with those contextual grounding checks against provided sources and the new automated reasoning checks for logical validation. So, the big picture here, the common thread across all these efforts that the source highlights, is this intense focus on grounding outputs in verifiable data, often using techniques like R retrieval augmented generation. For you as a lawyer, the message is crystal clear. Look for tools that offer transparency, strong grounding features, and let you anchor the AI's output in your firm's trusted data or verified external legal sources. Customization and control are key.
Okay, that provides crucial context. So let's get really practical. Based on the source material, what are the actionable best practices lawyers in Luxembourg and the EU should be implementing right now?
All right, let's break it down. First up, prompt engineering. It sounds fancy, but it's really just about giving the AI clear, specific instructions. The source uses a good legal example. Instead of just asking, tell me about contracts, you'd ask something much more precise, like explain the key elements required for a valid contract under Luxembourg law, cite relevant articles from the Civil Code if possible, and give me a brief example of a breach. Specificity gets you a much better, more relevant answer.
Makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out applies here too. And data privacy. With GDPR, that has to be top of mind.
Absolutely top of mind. The source stresses this heavily. You need extreme caution with any confidential or sensitive client data. Don't just paste it into public LLMs unless you really understand their data policies. Look for enterprise-grade security, strong encryption, clear GDPR-compliant data processing agreements. For super sensitive stuff, maybe look at vetted on-premise or private cloud options if they fit your needs.
And verifying the output. You mentioned it before, but it bears repeating.
It absolutely does. The source is clear. This is non-negotiable. Any AI output, especially if it involves legal facts, analysis, or citations, must be independently verified against primary legal sources. Check the actual laws, the court decisions, reputable databases. Features like planned citations from Anthropic or Google's DoubleCheck are helpful aids, but they don't replace your professional duty to verify everything yourself.
How about integrating AI into workflows? Where should lawyers start?
The advice is generally to start small, low risk. Think high-volume tasks first. Maybe summarizing long documents, but again, you must verify the summary's accuracy. Drafting standard email templates. Brainstorming initial research ideas. For more advanced uses, integrating AI deeper into workflows, that's where platforms like Copilot Studio come in, but you need strong governance and human oversight built in from the start.
What about the audio features in some models? Potential uses, but also risks.
Yeah, models like Claude 4 and Gemini now have audio capabilities. So you could potentially transcribe client meetings, but only with explicit GDPR-compliant consent for using their voice data. You could dictate case notes, get audio summaries. Convenience is the upside. But the risks are significant. Transcription accuracy needs checking. And GDPR compliance for voice data is absolutely essential.
You mentioned RDAG again earlier as a way to fight hallucinations. Can you quickly anchor that with a legal example in this best practices context?
Sure. RJAD retrieval augmented generation. It's a key technique. Instead of the AI just making things up based on its vast general training data, RJ makes it first go and retrieve relevant information from a specific trusted source you point it to. Think your firm's private knowledge base or maybe Luxembourg's official legal gazette, the Memorial A and B. The AI uses that retrieved, reliable information to help construct its answer. It anchors the response in facts, reducing the chance of just making things up.
So you're feeding it reliable legal sources to build its answer upon.
Exactly. The source also mentions a couple of other practical tips. Adjusting technical parameters like temperature lower is generally better for factual legal answers, makes the output less random, more focused. Using structured prompts, like with headings or bullet points, can also help the AI break down and handle complex legal questions more effectively.
And that knowledge cutoff date we keep coming back to.
The source calls it a critical limitation, even an Achilles heel for legal use. You simply have to know the cutoff date for the specific model version you're using. Remember those examples. GPT 4.1 is June 2024, Claude 4 is March 2025, Llama 3.2 is December 2023. The model knows nothing that happened after that date unless it has a live web browsing feature turned on. And even then, you still need to verify what it finds.
That's a really solid set of practical points, thanks. Now let's drill down a bit more into one platform we discussed, Microsoft Copilot Studio. The report seemed to really emphasize its May 2025 updates as significant for lawyers wanting to build custom AI. What makes it stand out?
Yeah, the focus seems justified given the direction towards custom solutions. As we touched on, that multi-agent orchestration is a big part of it. The May updates really boosted this. You can assemble teams of agents using M365 data, Azure AI models, Fabric analytics, and have them collaborate. They can delegate tasks, share findings, and the source even notes support for an open standard agent-to-agent or A2A, which hints at potential future collaboration across different platforms too.
So it's really geared towards building these integrated legal processes, not just single AI tools doing isolated things.
That's the idea. And a huge practical step highlighted in the report is making it generally available to publish custom agents you build directly into Microsoft Copilot Chat. This means the bespoke AI agent you create for, say, initial contract review or compliance checks can live right inside the M365 apps, Teams, Word, Outlook that your team uses daily. Makes adoption much easier. These agents can handle multi-turn conversations, use interactive elements.
That seamless integration is definitely appealing for getting lawyers to actually use it.
For sure. That computer use capability, though currently US only, is also interesting. It moves beyond just handling information to automating actions across different software, desktop apps, web apps. Imagine automating parts of e-discovery data collection or populating case management fields. And a core strength really is that bring your own model and Copilot tuning. Accessing lots of models is one thing, but the power for a law firm is fine-tuning them with your own enterprise data.
Embedding your firm's specific expertise, precedents, maybe even specific client knowledge securely into the AI.
Exactly. Grounding it deeply in your context. The source also mentions Copilot connectors used to be called Microsoft Graph connectors. These are vital for letting your custom agents securely tap into external systems. Think third-party legal databases, your CRM, maybe proprietary firm software. Gives the AI the real-time data and context it needs.
Okay, so the strengths for law firms seem clear. Automating complex workflows start to finish, creating domain-specific intelligence based on firm knowledge, and that seamless integration.
What about the downsides or challenges noted in the report? Well, building and managing these kinds of sophisticated orchestrated solutions isn't trivial. It needs technical know-how, so there's a complexity hurdle. Data governance and security are absolutely paramount. If you're connecting multiple data sources, potentially fine-tuning on sensitive firm or client data, you need an incredibly robust framework. GDPR compliance is non-negotiable here. Cost is another factor. There are licenses, the computing power needed for tuning and running these agents, plus the ongoing development and maintenance effort. And with these complex multi-agent systems, there's always a potential black box risk. If it's not designed carefully for transparency, understanding exactly why the AI reached a certain conclusion can be difficult.
How does Copilot Studio itself help tackle hallucinations within these custom setups?
The report points to a few built-in approaches. That fine-tuning on your own enterprise data is a primary one. You're anchoring the AI in information you know is accurate. Using the Copilot connectors to pull in real-time data from trusted external sources acts like a form of built-in RVAG grounding responses. There are also governance and analytics tools within the platform to monitor how the agents are performing. And new controls for the people building the agents makers let them define rules about what data the agent can access and set up moderation policies.
Could you share one of those concrete legal use case examples the source provided?
Sure. One was automated due diligence in M&A. Imagine orchestrating several agents. Agent 1 securely ingests the deal documents. Agent 2 may be fine-tuned on M&A risks, analyzes them, possibly querying external databases via a connector for extra info. Agent 3 then drafts a preliminary risk report, crucially, for a human lawyer to review and finalize. Another was enhanced client onboarding conflict checking. A chat agent handles the initial intake questions. It delegates to another agent that runs a conflict check against your internal systems using a connector. Maybe then a computer use agent automatically populates the basic fields in your case management system. A third, very relevant for Luxembourg, was streamlined regulatory compliance monitoring. An agent fine-tuned on specific CSSF circulars or EU directives could, with very strict human oversight and safeguards, monitor relevant data streams for potential compliance red flags.
So automating some of the legwork in those common, often time-consuming legal processes.
Exactly, letting the lawyers focus on the higher-level strategy and judgment. The report also gave some practical tips if you're thinking about exploring Copilot Studio. Start small and specific, don't boil the ocean. Prioritize data quality for fine-tuning. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. Involve IT and compliance. Early collaboration is key, especially for GDPR. Always maintain a human-in-the-loop AI assists. It doesn't replace legal judgment. And make use of the adoption resources Microsoft provides.
It certainly sounds like a powerful toolkit for building bespoke legal AI, but definitely one that needs careful planning, cross-functional teamwork, and a rigorous approach to data and compliance.
Absolutely. It represents that shift from just using off-the-shelf AI tools to strategically building AI capabilities right into your firm's core operations.
Okay, let's broaden the view again. Thinking about the overall AI toolkit available to lawyers, especially with that Luxembourg and EU focus, what are some basics we need to understand, and how do the platforms fit in?
Right. Stepping back. Two foundational concepts. The source flags are API and RG. We've touched on them, but just to be clear, an API, application programming interface, is like the messenger service that lets different software programs talk to each other. It's how your legal tech tool or a custom app you build can tap into the power of a big underlying LLM from OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, etc.
Got it. The technical handshake allowing tools to use the AI models.
Exactly. And retrieval augmented generation, as we've emphasized, is crucial for reliability in legal contexts. The AI first retrieves relevant information from a specific trusted source you provide, could be your firm's document management system, official Luxembourg legislation online, a specific case law database, and then it uses that retrieved info to help generate its answer. Grounds it in facts, fights hallucination. Now, looking at the main AI platforms we discussed, but specifically through that EU Lux lens, Google AI, Vertex AI, Gemini, you access it via their Vertex AI platform, APIs, or the Gemini app, has audio support. They manage hallucinations through their responsible AI framework, features like double check. Cost is usage-based. For ULUX, Google Cloud does offer EU data residency options, which is good, but you are responsible for ensuring your use is fully GDPR compliant.
OpenAI, ChatGPT, GPT models.
Access via ChatGPT interface or their API. ChatGPT offers audio. They tackle hallucinations via their safety hub testing. And those reasoning summaries in the API help transparency. Cost. API is per token used. ChatGPT has subscription tiers. For eLux, GDPR applies fully to how you process data using their tools. Data residency might vary depending on the specific service, so you need to check.
Anthropic, Claude.
You can get Claude via their website, Claude.ai API, or through cloud platforms like AWS Bedrock and Google Vertex AI. Claude 4 has audio. They use constitutional AI, AI Safety Level 3, and plan citations for hallucination mitigation. Cost is API per token, the source mount example pricing for Opus 4 and Sonnet 4. For eLux, being available on EU-hosted cloud platforms like AWS Frankfurt or Google Belgium helps with data residency concerns. GDPR compliance is, of course, essential.
AWS AI, Amazon Bedrock.
Access via the AWS console or API. It gives access to multiple models, Claude, Llama, Amazon's own Titan models, etc. Audio depends on the model chosen. The standout feature, as mentioned, is Bedrock guardrails with contextual grounding and automated reasoning. Costs are flexible, pay-as-you-go, or provision throughput. For ULUX, AWS has multiple EU regions, Frankfurt, Ireland, Paris, etc., for data residency. Those guardrails are a big plus for enforcing policies and aiding GDPR compliance.
And Meta AI, Llama.
Primarily accessed open source, meaning you run it yourself, or via platforms like Bedrock or Vertex AI. There's a limited Llama API preview too. Audio depends on how it's integrated. Llama 3.2 Vision can handle images. They address hallucinations through the Llama protection tools for developers and safety tuning, SFTR-LHF. Cost. The model itself is free, but you bear the infrastructure and development costs if you self-host. For eLux, open source means the responsibility for GDPR and, crucially, AI Act compliance falls much more heavily on you when you build custom solutions. The source does note Llama 3.2 supports multiple EU languages, a plus for Luxembourg.
So it boils down to choosing. Build custom on a platform or use existing point solutions.
Pretty much. And the source talks about building LLM-powered AI agents or custom solutions for specific legal tasks. Research, contract analysis, due diligence, maybe even client communication bots. For getting started building these, it suggests looking at lower code platforms like Copilot Studio, starting simple and using those connectors effectively. But critically, for custom solutions, you must build in hallucination safeguards. Implement RA connecting to your firm's knowledge base or trusted legal databases. Conduct rigorous testing and validation. Filter or moderate inputs and outputs. And design for transparency, make the AI explain its reasoning or cite sources where possible. The source also spotlights existing LLM-driven tools and complementary AI, focusing on EU compliance needs, document review and e-discovery tools, using NLP and LLMs to understand, identify, extract info. The source mentions DARO as an example, using AI for violation detection. Key EU compliance points: need EU data hosting, GDPR adherence, and potential AI Act assessment if considered high risk. Contract analysis and management, CLM tools, using NLP for finding clauses, assessing risks. LLMs might assist summarizing or drafting. EU compliance. GDPR is vital for any personal data and contracts. AI Act transparency needed if the AI actively modifies clauses. Legal research platforms, combining advanced search with LLMs for natural language queries and summaries. Lexis plus AI is given as an example. EU compliance. GDPR for user data handling. AI Act transparency regarding how AI summaries are generated. Legal practice management, LPM software with AI features. Automating admin tasks, client communication, document handling. Clio is mentioned as a GDPR compliant example. EU compliance. GDPR is absolutely paramount for client data. Clio acts as a data processor. If AI features assist with things like AML, accuracy and compliance are critical. Need to assess if specific AI features trigger AI Act high-risk requirements, less likely for basic admin, but needs checking.
And did the report offer specific examples of LLM-driven automation tailored for Luxembourg or the EU?
Yes, it did. Things like automated preliminary compliance checks, using R against specific EU or Luxembourg regulatory texts like CSSF circulars, but emphasizing that accuracy checks and human review are vital. Generating first drafts of standard legal documents based on approved Luxembourg or EU templates again, thorough human review is absolutely essential. Creating initial summaries of EU court judgments, like from the CJEU or General Court, useful starting point, but you must verify against the full official text. Providing analysis support for cross-border data transfers under GDPR, maybe identifying data flows or flagging potential issues, but this is complex, requires expert human oversight. Costs, as mentioned, vary hugely. Subscriptions, usage fees, implementation costs, or infrastructure developer costs for open source. But the source really hammers home the critical Luxembourg and EU considerations. Data sovereignty and residency. This is a primary concern. You should prioritize platforms and solutions offering EU-based processing and storage to align with GDPR and client expectations. Major cloud providers offer this. GDPR compliance, non-negotiable. Means robust technical and organizational measures. Data processing agreements, DPAs, security protocols, processes for data subject rights, ensuring a lawful basis for processing. AI Act alignment. This is crucial now and going forward. You need to assess if the AI tools or systems you use or build fall under the AI Act's categories, especially high risk. If so, you'll need risk management systems, data governance procedures, transparency, disclosing AI use, providing explanations, human oversight mechanisms, and ensuring accuracy and robustness. Local language support, important for practice in Luxembourg, needing French, German, English capabilities. Llama 3.2's multi-language support was noted as relevant here.
That really paints a clear picture. The potential of these tools is immense, but navigating the technical choices and the dense EU-Luxembourg compliance landscape is absolutely key.
Exactly. You need both the technical understanding and the legal regulatory awareness working hand in hand.
Speaking of that regulatory landscape, let's shift focus to the very latest legal updates from official EU and Luxembourg sources concerning AI, data protection, cybersecurity. What new developments does the report highlight?
Okay, this is where the legal framework is actively being built out. At the EU level, a significant development mentioned is the Council of Europe Framework Convention on AI, Human Rights, Democracy, and the Rule of Law. The report notes an EU Commission proposal, KM 2025-265 final, for the EU to formally conclude this convention. The treaty itself was adopted back in May 2024, opened for signature in September 2024, and the EU is a signatory.
So this adds an international treaty layer focused on fundamental values.
Precisely. Its goal, according to the source, is to ensure AI's entire life cycle aligns with human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. It sets out principles like dignity, equality, privacy, transparency, accountability. It requires risk and impact assessments, and even allows for bans on certain AI applications' red lines. The EU joining reinforces these core principles across the bloc.
And the EU AI Act itself, where are we with implementation timings?
Right. The AI Act was adopted mid-2024. It applies fully 24 months after entry into force, but key parts phase in earlier. The ban on unacceptable risk AI, like certain social scoring, technically applied from February 2nd, 2025. Codes of practice are expected around March 2025. But the really immediate one, highlighted in the source, is the transparency requirements for general-purpose AI models, the big foundation models like GPT, Gemini, Claude. These are set to apply around June 2025.
June 2025. So basically right now, what do those require?
Yes, according to the timeline in the source. Providers of these GPAI models now have obligations to disclose that content is AI-generated, take steps to prevent generating illegal content, and publish summaries of the copyrighted data they used for training. High-impact GPAI models, those deemed to pose systemic risks, face tougher rules like model evaluations and incident reporting. The full obligations for systems classified as high-risk AI come quite a bit later, around June 2027.
Any recent official news on GDPR mentioned?
The source points to some recent CJEU activity. Advocate General opinions from June 5, 2025, one from AG Apatita regarding EU values and access to data, another from AG Medina on processing personal data for restrictive measures. These show the courts are still actively scrutinizing how data protection intersects with other EU laws and values. Also, on May 21, 2025, the European Commission proposed targeted changes to GDPR's record-keeping rules, Article 35. The idea is to simplify things for small and medium-sized companies, those with fewer than 750 employees. They'd only need to keep records for processing activities considered high risk. This could be a simplification for smaller Luxembourg businesses, but obviously how high-risk processing gets defined will be key.
And cybersecurity. DORA and NIS2 updates.
DORA, Digital Operational Resilience Act, is a major focus, especially for Luxembourg's financial sector, as they gear up for its full application. NIS2, Network and Information Security Directive, transposition into national law is ongoing across the EU. Recent CSSF circulars, which we'll get to next, directly address DORA preparation in Luxembourg. It all means a much stronger focus on ICT risk management, third-party supplier risk, and incident reporting for financial firms under DORA, and critical infrastructure sectors under NIS2. Legal teams are definitely busy advising on policy updates and contract changes.
Okay, let's turn to Luxembourg specifically. What are the key national developments from official sources, especially regarding the AI Act authorities?
This is a big one for clarity in Lux. The source highlights a bill presented to the relevant parliamentary commission on June 3, 2025. This follows an earlier bill, N degrees 5476 from December 2024, and aims to designate the national authorities responsible for overseeing the AI Act.
And who's getting designated in Luxembourg?
The bill proposes the CNPD, the National Data Protection Authority, as the general reference authority for the AI Act overall. But crucially, it designates specialized sectoral authorities to act as the market surveillance authorities within their existing areas of competence. So the CSSF for the financial sector, the CAA, Commissariat aux Assurances for Insurance, ILNAS, Institut Luxembourgeois de la Normalisation, de l'Accréditation de la Sécurité et Qualité des Produits et Services, and its OLAS division will also act as a notifying body. There are also provisions for future bodies like ALMPS, Autorité Luxembourgeoise des Médias et de la Publicité sur Internet et les Services en Ligne, and LIA, Autorité Luxembourgeoise Indépendante de l'Audiovisuel, regarding things like deepfakes and transparency, plus the ILR, Institut Luxembourgeois de Régulation, for telecom aspects. The CNPD is also designated as the notified body specifically for high-risk AI systems used by certain public authorities, like law enforcement.
So it makes sense leveraging the existing expertise of regulators like the CSSF for AI within their sector.
Exactly. The bill also mandates the creation of AI regulatory sandboxes within each sector. These are intended to allow businesses, particularly SMEs and startups, to test innovative AI applications in a controlled environment, supervised by the relevant authority. Illness OLA sandboxes were noted separately too. And finally, the bill establishes the framework for administrative sanctions if companies don't comply with the AI Act, with lower caps for SMEs and startups. So overall, this bill brings much-needed clarity on who does what for AI oversight in Luxembourg, supports innovation through sandboxes, and outlines the penalties.
You mentioned CSSF circulars related to DORA earlier.
Yes, two were published on May 28, 2025, directly targeting financial entities and certain payment service providers under CSSF supervision, getting them ready for DORA. Circular CSSF 25893 lays out the specific ways these entities must report major ICT-related incidents and significant cyber threats to the CSSF under DORA. It replaces a previous circular for these specific entities. Circular CSSF 25892 explains how to apply the European Supervisory Authority's guidelines on estimating the costs and losses resulting from major ICT incidents, again, as required by DORA.
So immediate practical steps needed for financial players in Luxembourg: update incident reporting processes, update methods for estimating incident costs, effective straight away from May 28th.
Correct. And it really underscores how intertwined DORA and AI governance are becoming, especially in finance, with the CSSF playing a key role in overseeing both. One last point from the source on Luxembourg, it mentions the country's engagement with high-performance computing, HPC, and AI factories, referencing a June 3rd Chamber of Deputies document about a Euro HPC initiative. This involves upgrading Luxembourg's supercomputer with AI capabilities and establishing an AI factory, shows a national investment in building the infrastructure to support local AI development.
That's a really comprehensive overview of a complex, layered legal framework taking shape incredibly quickly. What are the immediate practical takeaways for lawyers and their clients across different sectors in Luxembourg based on all this?
Well, the source suggests the impact varies, but is significant across the board. For investment funds, it's navigating CSF oversight now explicitly including AI, plus DORA and GDPR compliance for any AI used in operations. For corporate law, AI tools used in due diligence, contract review, or compliance monitoring will need careful assessment under the AI Act's transparency rules alongside GDPR. For regulatory AML-CFT work, any use of AI, especially if deemed high risk, will face intense scrutiny under the AI Act and CSSF oversight. Explainability and accuracy are paramount. And the banking sector, often early adopters of AI for things like credit scoring or fraud detection, faces a combination of likely high-risk AI Act obligations, strict DORA compliance enforced by the CSSF, and ongoing GDPR requirements. All this implies, as the source notes, likely necessary updates to a range of standard legal and corporate documents. Think client agreements or terms of service addressing AI use, data, privacy policies detailing AI data processing, ICT outsourcing agreements incorporating DORA requirements, internal compliance policies establishing AI governance, risk management, employee policies governing use of AI tools, and even corporate governance documents reflecting board-level oversight of AI risks.
So a significant amount of legal drafting and policy updating needed just to stay compliant. And those key dates, again, just to recap from the source.
Key ones to watch. EU AI Act transparency rules for GPAI models are applying around June 2025, so now. The full obligations for high-risk AI systems come later, around June 2027. The Luxembourg National Bill designating AI Act authorities is working its way through Parliament. Those CSSF circulars on data or incident reporting and cost estimation took effect May 28, 2025, and the process for the EU to formally join the Council of Europe AI Convention is ongoing.
It's truly striking how fast this is all moving, and how the legal and regulatory picture is solidifying at the international, EU, and national levels simultaneously. We've certainly covered a huge amount of ground in this deep dive, drawing from that specific report. We've looked at the cutting edge of LLMs and specialized AI tools, the absolute necessity of tackling hallucinations, practical best practices you can apply, a closer look at platforms like Copilot Studio, navigating the wider AI toolkit with a Luxembourg lens, and the very latest legal and regulatory updates that are shaping your work right now. We really hope this helps you think about how these rapid changes are impacting your specific practice and your clients. Staying vigilant and proactive is clearly essential. What aspect of this evolving landscape needs your focus first? That concludes our deep dive into this report. This podcast contains content generated or significantly edited using artificial intelligence tools. All information is provided for general informational purposes only and reflects knowledge available at the time of publication. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. We recommend that listeners verify the information independently and consult with qualified professionals for personalized advice. Hit that like and subscribe button. It was the AI Law Briefing podcast for you this week.